Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers no-show on Monday against Phoenix, and they get blown out 125-108. We'll break down everything that went wrong next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in this or any other universe. We certainly appreciate you, whether you're getting the podcast through Apple, whether you're getting it through Spotify, if you're a regular on the YouTube channel, over 37,000 subscribers over there. However you do it, we certainly appreciate it. Even on nights, Andy, where the Lakers just flat out suck.
We especially appreciate you being here on the nights where the Lakers flat out suck.
Oh.
Anybody can show up and hang out when they kick the bleep out of some team.
No, that's true.
When they absolutely crap the bed, as was the case in this 125-108 loss to the Suns, y'all being here, that's when it really matters. So gracias, for real.
Do want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So head to FanDuel.com to get started. You know, it was funny. Like, the Lakers played one really good quarter Sunday night and in their win against New Orleans, and then three, I will call them mediocre quarters for the sake of generosity. And we talked about, like, you know, they're obviously going to have to do better against Phoenix. They said that. JJ Redick said that. People got mad at us for not celebrating the win enough, not noting that, like, you know, use your tune-up to play like you want to play in the next game. And lo and behold, they came out, even in the first quarter, Andy, which was finished 31-31, they did not look good. I don't think they looked particularly good throughout the game. The first quarter was the high watermark, but even then, I didn't think they looked sharp.
Well, part of the problem was the first quarter was basically the Luka Doncic show, and he had 20 points in the first quarter, 8 of 11 from the field. It's obviously a good showing for Luka, and it was the only quarter where the Lakers did not turn the ball over excessively. But what they were doing in the first quarter, was not balanced in terms of defense on the other side of the ball. It's the only quarter they did a good job guarding the three-point line, which I did a mini preview breaking down this game. And one of the things I talked about that the Lakers needed to be mindful of with Phoenix was their ability to shoot. And for a quarter, they did a decent job guarding the three-point line, and for the other three quarters, they were god-awful at it. But what they were doing in the first quarter defensively wasn't matching the offense, and in the meantime, the formula offensively did not feel sustainable, but it also didn't feel like an actual plan. And I know we've talked before about the pluses and minuses of what has been a very well-established pattern of Luka Doncic really taking over first quarters and setting a tone that way. Luka's game itself was a very, very mixed bag from there. 9 turnovers. Luka actually took the blame for the loss. So if you get upset, any of the Luka super fans and our friends from Slovenia, zdravo to all of you. If you get upset about anything we say about Luka, we're just repeating what he said because he was pretty harsh on himself.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of company.
It wasn't all Luka, but this was not a great Luka game.
It wasn't, and it was one of those games where, like, the final numbers, if you kind of just look at the sort of the counting stats and you're not counting turnovers, if you're looking at those stats, you know, you see 38 points, you see a very efficient night from the floor, all that stuff. Like, from that standpoint, Luka was good. And he was certainly the best of the Lakers' big three. Austin Reeves finished with 16 points, backloaded. He was very quiet through most of the game. LeBron only had 10 points, 3 of 10 shooting. He had to hustle, Andy, just to get to the double digits. And I know this is something we'll talk about over the course of the show, like the slow starts for LeBron feeling his way through games. This one he never started.
If we don't get into all of them in this show, it'll certainly come up for Wednesday's show. I increasingly am having questions about what LeBron's role on this team is, acknowledging I know he is still working his way back from the long absence, didn't get a full training camp, pushing 41, yada, yada, yada. It's seemed in the beginning when he first came back, it seemed like there was a kind of formula that he was a part of. I'm not sure what they're doing feels fully formed enough, but we'll get to that.
It was just this was a game that was defined. The Lakers were bad defensively, but they were undone by their offense. They turned the ball over. 21 turnovers, 22 if you count team turnovers. That led to 32 points off of turnovers for Phoenix. It led to a 28-2 advantage in fast break points for the Suns. It's very difficult to get going, in terms of, pushing pace and all that kind of stuff when you are either turning the ball over constantly or taking the ball out of your own net the entire night, which what the Lakers did. Phoenix shot 57%, or Andy, both. You mentioned it, Phoenix being a team that turns teams over a lot, league leaders steals and things like that. The Lakers were a step slow in everything. They were a step slow in their execution. They weren't cutting as hard. They weren't moving as quickly. They weren't playing as hard. Austin Reeves flat out said they played harder than we did. And this, of course, Andy, is after Devin Booker left the game after only 10 minutes of play. The Lakers were really done in by Dylan Brooks and Colin Gillespie, not Devin Booker.
Well, I want to make sure that it is perfectly clear. Credit Phoenix for being the better team in this game. And I was skeptical about Phoenix heading into this season. I still need to see a larger sample size with them against better teams. But if nothing else, they are maximizing what they have and they're playing their asses off. And that's really commendable, especially considering the last couple years there, which was just this like listless malaise where everybody was clearly miserable. So kudos to them. And they can be an opportunistic team, like you mentioned. A lot of the Lakers' turnovers, though, had nothing to do with Phoenix forcing them into it. It was the Lakers making terrible decisions with the ball, like pounding the ball into submission as if they were literally trying to kill the ball, like literally snuff out the life of the ball. There were several turnovers where they were just dribbling themselves into trouble, terrible decisions, bad attempts at home run passes. Like, again, Phoenix deserves credit for being opportunistic, but the Lakers just made their own lives so much, frankly, stupidly more difficult than it needed to be.
That's what I mean. I think, if you were going to kind of break down what Luka was critical of himself about, I think a lot of it was that. It's just sort of poor choices, lazy choices, lazy cutting, lazy ball movement. And Rui Hachimura, and I know we talk about all the time, like, got to get Rui more involved in this and that. There's some of this sometimes is just on Rui. Like, Rui had one shot in this game, one shot, one rebound, and that's it. That was his contribution to the box score. Didn't have a bucket, didn't have a point, didn't have a free throw. And some of that's him. Some of that, is
I bet his touches in this game would be shockingly low.
That's where I'm getting at. Like, we talk sometimes about sort of imbalance, and Reeves cooking and Luka cooking and all that kind of stuff. And, this was one of those games, and we've noted it before. Robert Ory went on for a while in the postgame show on Spectrum Sportsnet. Like, people got to touch the ball. And it's not a question of everybody's got to get, 5 shots. This guy gets 7 shots. That guy gets 10 shots. Like, it's not just about shots. It's about literally touching the ball. And the Lakers just have too many possessions where not enough guys touch the ball. And there are a couple reasons for that. And I know one of them is one that you agree with, Andy, wholeheartedly, and we'll get to it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. It's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, and every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment can be capitalized on. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, momentum flips after a turnover. Ugh, I don't like that word after tonight's game for the Lakeovers. Turnovers. FanDuel lets
you just
jump.
called them the Lakeovers.
You know what?
You invented a term. You invented a very good term on a night like Monday.
They deserved it. And FanDuel, if you'd like to use that specifically for the Lakers, hopefully not often, that's my contribution to our friends over at FanDuel. Anyway, it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility, every turnover the live betting does. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your first NFL live bet all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so do you.
Andy, you mentioned in the FanDuel read that the game moves fast. The Lakers didn't. That was part of the problem. It's like when people talk about playing fast in the NBA, too often they just think about fast break points. And the Lakers actually, especially with LeBron back in the lineup and his passing ability, his ability to get and go, and nobody's getting in his way at the rim, and Luka's hit ahead ability, all this stuff, the Lakers actually, for a team that isn't hyper athletic and isn't an up and down team, can and really should get out on the break. But most of the time when Andy and I are talking about playing fast, everydayers will hear us harp on this. It's literally move quicker, get up the floor faster. Don't take 7 seconds to get across half court. Take 5 seconds. Don't take 6 seconds to get into your first action. Take 3 seconds. There were a couple, possessions. There was one where LeBron ended up with a shot clock violation where the Lakers had all this nice ball movement, this and that. The balls, man, they couldn't quite get the right shot they were looking for. Everybody's being unselfish. All of a sudden, you're out of time. Like, they have so many unnecessary late clock shots that come from simply wasting 5 seconds at the beginning of every possession. And that crushed them in this game.
I mean, that can be one of the issues where the offense often operates with very Luka heliocentric, very Austin heliocentric, and presumably when LeBron gets fully in the swing of things, however long that's going to take. And again, I have concerns about this process now 5 games in, but LeBron eventually becomes one of the candidates for this as well. And the heliocentric thing can obviously work. There have been plenty of teams, including 4 with LeBron, that have won championships that way. But there still has to be some kind of action happening. If everybody is just standing around basically waiting for the same guy who's bringing the ball up the court to cross half court before they can get an 8-second violation, and then things don't start moving until about 10 seconds left on the clock, you're likely to end up with bad offensive execution or a turnover because you're suddenly left without options and you're forced to make a pass under duress or a decision that you wouldn't want to make, but you have to. And that leads to a worst case scenario, a live ball turnover. And the Lakers, they're never going to be, no matter how much effort they put behind it, they're never going to be a great team defending in transition. They simply do not have the personnel for that. They can maybe at times pick their spots and be reasonably effective, but it's never going to be a strength. If they excessively turn the ball over, they are likely to lose because they do not have the roster to offset it.
And they're not a team that reliably can make up 3-point shots. That the defense. I mean, if we haven't really tackled the really gone on a deep dive on, do you believe in the Lakers and this start? Because on the one hand, there's a lot of reason to believe in it. They've won a lot of games with missing a lot of players and all of that stuff. If you don't believe, for a little while, they actually had a very good strength of schedule. That has fallen off. They've done a lot of their damage against the bad teams in the league. Most teams with gaudy records build that up, beating on bad teams in the league. It's actually very impressive. They're 10-1 against teams under 500. That's really good. But they aren't, the defense isn't anywhere near top 10. The offense, like you say, goes through these stretches of awkwardness, we'll say. The shooting is unreliable. They are very good inside the arc, but they are very unreliable outside the arc. And so if you're down 10, 15, 18 points, like there was a moment, maybe Andy, I don't think you disagree, but maybe you do. Like they made a little tiny push. Like they started like near the end of the third quarter, that thing where you try to get it to 10 going into fourth. You're like, oh, they got a chance here. They got 3 minutes to make it happen. Get a couple buckets in a row. But I personally have trouble believing that they can do that they can get enough stops to go on a really quick, 10-2 run against good teams. Not yet. And that's something you got to be able to do if you're going to advance in the playoffs.
Their best defense is, in a lot of ways, don't put yourself in the worst scenarios for your defense.
Yep.
Like, mention this.
Play from ahead. They're a good team playing from ahead.
Well, play from ahead, but also don't do the things that put you in the worst position defensively. And, the turnovers are a prime example of this. It's also, too, I mentioned this after the New Orleans win, which the Lakers controlled because they were playing the zombie Pelicans. But the intensity and the focus and the intentionality was dramatically missing in that game. And it was something that you and I, as you said at the top of the show, didn't like. I think this is another game where they really missed Marcus Smart. And we are seeing, where Smart's value really comes through in games like, forget what he might have been able to do trying to slow down Dylan Brooks or slow down Colin Gillespie or anything like that individually, the defense. It's the collective intensity or lack thereof. They are often a different team in terms of just pure urgency when he's on the floor. And there's a reason that they have generally not just won the minutes when Smart has played, but they've won the minutes pretty decisively, really no matter who he's playing with. It hasn't really mattered what the floor combinations are. And I think it is in part because he provides very specific things. He's like Liam Neeson in Taken, very specific set of skills. And those skills are pretty lacking across this roster, especially, if Jared Vanderbilt is out of the rotation. Like you start just running out of the other guys who might do some of this, even a lesser version of it. Like Smart is a better player than Vando, but he's the next closest guy to replicate some of those things missing. So they really need Marcus Smart. It's become pretty evident.
It also gets to the challenge and the risk of Smart. And, we talked about this, like they're trying to keep him healthy. And, he's out with the back spasm. Like he's already missed some games and he's already pretty dinged up, and he started the season dinged up. And like, I know you were a huge Jordan Goodwin fan, and, obviously he was on the floor tonight with Phoenix. And Like everybody had a nice game. He had 13 points, 5 of 10 shooting and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
3
I don't think
steals.
I don't see him as, a Marcus Smart future defensive player of the year candidate.
No. But like a guy who brings some energy, and he has, like kind of
There-
a poor man's version of what you get from a player
yes.
like Smart.
Yes.
Um,
And that's
but
useful,
it
especially
is.
with this roster. It's
And
useful.
but the biggest thing is availability. And if they can't keep Smart available, they're going to run into trouble. And so this is I think one of the big issues with starting him is just the extra grind that takes. And you're up against first team players for more of that time. There, I After the break, I'll there is something else, that there are a lot of things that this good start gives the Lakers the flexibility to do, but treating a guy like Smart with kid gloves is one of those things. They missed an opportunity to really kind of distance themselves from the seventh seed, which is the spot you don't want to be in the West, but they still have that wiggle room with a guy like Smart. But the road trip coming up, if they're not careful, could eat into that. So we'll talk about that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Prize Picks, and the holiday season is one of the best times for sports. You got bowl games, you got big basketball matchups, you got playoff pushes. It's all happening at once, and we're all making choices every day, but one of the fun places to make the right call, Prize Picks, the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less, or at least 2-player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. And it's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Huzzah, California. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy score, field goal attempts, free throws made, turnovers, whatever, lakeovers, whatever fits your strategy. Deposits and withdrawals that are easy and quick, which keeps everything flowing. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups, and after you play your first $5 lineup, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right.
So folks, Andy on the show for Monday heard me talking about, like, you're sort of in my mind, what I see is like the objectives in this season. Step 1, finish in the top 6. Make sure you do not have to do the play-in. Stay out of that nonsense. You get the rest before the playoffs. Obviously, JJ Redick will handle it differently this year than last year, but you don't want to mess around with any of that. Step 1, that missed an opportunity to put another game between themselves and the Suns. Too early to panic, but would have been nice. They would have put it 6 games between them and Phoenix in the loss column had they won that, which a quarter of the way into the season is actually a lot. That's a big gap for Phoenix to have to make up. Step 2, top 4. Okay, that could still happen. Step 3, second round, you still have home court advantage. That means you're a 2 seed. And that's what we're hoping to work for here. They're going to have to figure out which of those things are most valuable to them, because ultimately they also have to keep LeBron healthy. They have to keep Marcus Smart healthy. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little worried about Smart, because he has missed some games and it is clear that he is filling a role on this team that nobody else can fill.
Well, certainly nobody else JJ is confident in filling. And it's also concerning because this is not like LeBron versus New Orleans left foot injury management, which LeBron said in so many words after the game. Like, this is what happens when you get old. These things add up, and you have to keep an eye on it. And back-to-backs, it's challenging for anybody at this stage, much less LeBron. Younger players at times. Joel Embiid, I don't know if he's ever going to play a back-to-back for like
No.
the rest of his career?
No, I do know the answer to that. The answer is no.
Right. So this is the deal. With Marcus Smart, it's a little more concerning because this is not a load management thing. This is he's dealing with something specific thing. And for the time being, it's going to be up to these other guys to channel that mindset and that energy and that urgency on their own, because it can't fall solely on Marcus Smart. It's certainly, until he is back in the rotation, not going to fall on Jared Vanderbilt. And you look at the way, I mean, but then I'm just saying, from there, you run out of the most obvious candidates. And take like Phoenix, for example, tonight, man, like, especially after not having Devin Booker for the majority of this game. He leaves with that groin strain. They didn't have Grayson Allen, who, beyond his shooting, brings a very specific, aggravating energy. Yeah, I mean,
the word you're looking for is he's annoying.
Yeah, he's got the most punchable face in the NBA. Let's everybody's thinking it. I'll just say it. I am not, so it's clear, urging anybody to punch Grayson Allen. I have never heard a bad thing about the guy. I mean, other than the tripping stuff at Duke, but he seems to have grown out of it. He doesn't seem to do that anymore.
Okay, so I have heard a couple bad things.
I have not heard anything bad about Grayson Allen in a long time, but nonetheless, his
other than the aqueducts, what did the Romans do for us?
No, but I was trying to maintain the messaging of don't go looking to punch Grayson Allen. But the point is, you lose your best player, and you lose one of your key role players who also can bring a lot of intensity and energy. That type of situation could lead a team to shrug their shoulders and feel like we don't have the horses to win a game. They just went out and played harder.
Yeah.
Like they went out and gained more determination from it.
Look at their roster, Andy. I mean, Royce O'Neal has stayed in the league for however many years, basically by being one of those guys, just hardworking, annoying to play against, does all the right stuff, that just truly professional. Dylan Brooks is as, dialed in, sort of irritant, high intensity a player as you can find in any sport anywhere. Gillespie is, still trying to establish himself as an NBA player. He's always playing hard. But, Ryan Dunn is an excellent defender. Goodwin, as we've talked about, plays very hard all the time. I mean, like,
Nigel Hayes Davis, former cup of coffee Laker, he's trying to reestablish any type of career in the league. We know who Jordan Goodwin is. He's always going to play hard.
Right. So it's the Lakers, they can't get by in games, and they said as much afterwards, not matching another team's intensity. They're often not going to be able to match the athleticism or perhaps be able to move as quick, but like, they can't afford not to be matching intensity. And that can mean mental focus, that can mean physical focus, that can mean a lot of things. Doesn't have to mean we're running faster and jumping higher. It means that we are locked in to at the level that we should be. And they just weren't in this game. They just weren't. They played very, very poorly. And some of that happens. Sometimes that happens. When you show up, you do your best, and you just suck. It's a physical activity. Everybody, we've all been there in whatever sport we've tried. Like, you're playing tennis with your friends, can't get the ball over the net. You're playing, pickup ball, and you can't hit a shot to save your life. It happens. You're trying your best. I don't think they were trying their best in this game.
No.
I don't think they brought it. I don't think they were intentionally loafing, but I don't think they brought it in this one.
Look, JJ mentioned a few times afterwards that they were lacking the physicality that was necessary for a 100%. Game like this.
Yes.
Like he said, if you don't play hard against that team being Phoenix, you will get, as he said, exposed. And he said, like, there are all these different elements that came out through not playing hard. And I think one of those things is actually focus. Like, if you are not playing hard, it becomes easier to become that much less focused. And the lack of focus can turn into, 22 turnovers.
And wouldn't you agree, Andy, though, too, that that's part of, like, the problem we were talking about in the first segment of just not enough hands touching the ball, possession to possession, plays into that intensity. It's hard to maintain the intensity when two or three or four guys don't get that, engagement with the game.
I know again that this has been Luka's pattern his entire career as far as the first quarter thing. And there's been a lot of success in Luka's career that includes first quarter success. So I'm not saying they need to scrap the whole thing and go back to an entirely blank drawing board. But I do think that they need to focus to some degree, like reconfigure this a bit. So if nothing else, you're making sure that Luka's dominance in the first quarter feels like it's spread all over the place, as opposed to purely in the field goal attempt count. Like Luka had as many shots in the first quarter as almost the entire starting the other four starters combined.
Yeah.
And yes, he was 8 of 11. He was super efficient. That stuff can be, I guess, demoralizing for an opponent. But the flip side, as we've talked about, and I want to make it clear, it is not purely because of Luka, but the Lakers are a bad first quarter team. So if nothing else, the way Luka's playing, I'm not saying it's the problem, but it damn sure has not been the solution because they're not a good first quarter team.
We had these conversations going back when Kobe, would come out and just annihilate teams early, or have these stretches where he took over games, but the ball didn't move enough. And Luka can finish possessions taking all the same number of shots, but I just think the Lakers operate better on both sides of the ball when more hands touch the ball possession to possession. First of all, they're taking more advantage of the skill that they have between LeBron, AR, and obviously Luka. But more importantly, they are a pretty ordinary, I'll think ordinary is a generous way of putting it right now, an ordinary defensive team. To your point, Andy, that you made in the last segment, if you're an ordinary defensive team, do the things that you can do to put your defense in the best position to succeed. And a lot of that is run a good offense, take good shots, and do all that stuff. Sometimes it won't save. There were times Lakers flat out did not get back in transition on Monday. That's hustle. That's attention. But there are other times when like the offense is, you're imbalanced because you think A is going to happen. You're waiting for something. You can't move and all of a sudden the ball goes the other way and you're not going to be able to get set up in a half court effectively.
Yeah. And it's just, Luka is obviously starting these first quarters with an intensity because you can't play the way he does in the first quarter without being pretty dialed in. Like, I don't think you can't phone in what Luka does in the first quarter. Like I think it is actually impossible, but there is that question. And I know you've raised it before about how much it dials down everybody else in the process, depending on if Luka can find the perfect balance of, somehow putting up 15 to 20, but also getting 5 or 6 assists. And obviously other guys have to make shots in order to get the assists. But I bet if you track Luka's passes in the first quarter, it's probably his lowest quarter. I'd be pretty confident.
That's one we'll look up on the second spectrum. But by the way, I'd forgotten about this. Do you know? You probably do because you might have looked at it. I'd forgotten how long ago it was that Nigel Hayes-Davis played his 2 games with the Lakers. It was back in 2017, 2018.
Oh yeah.
And then he played 2 games for Toronto that year, 5 games for Sacramento that year. So 9 NBA games in the 17-18 season. And he hadn't been back since. So kudos to Nigel Hayes-Davis for working your way back to the NBA. He's 30 years old. That is not easy to do.
Yeah. Also too, I'm not saying that the solution to this is necessarily more LeBron run sets in the first quarter, but the way things operate for the Lakers in the first quarter is emblematic in a lot of ways of what thus far feels like at best a fuzzy role for LeBron since returning. And in the beginning, it looked like maybe he could be part of like a co-closer role with Austin Reeves in the fourth quarter. And, that can work well if you head into the fourth quarter up. But in the meantime, though, it leaves 3 quarters where I'll be totally honest. I'm not sure where LeBron is at physically and how much he actually can do. And I have concerns about how long this ramp up, assuming it is fully successful, how long it's going to take and what it's going to look like. And again, we can talk about this more at length on Wednesday's show because we're close to wrapping. But I am also I am growing concerned that they don't quite know what to do with LeBron. LeBron doesn't quite know what to do with himself when he's out there. He is, I think, very clearly trying not to be a problem or create a Luka and Austin versus LeBron narrative. Like, I if anything, he may be going too far out of his way for it.
We'll pick this up tomorrow because there's that, and obviously the Lakers kicking off a challenging 3-game road trip, capped by a cup game against the Spurs. So 4 challenging games coming up for the Lakers. They obviously need to improve over what they did on Monday. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. We'll see everyone tomorrow.